Hey guys, this is part four of your Meso-American PowerPoint or slide deck on 8.2. So make sure you've watched the other three parts first. This is the part four. We were just talking about how Aztecs sometimes would use alliances to try to increase the size of their empire. They weren't all about war all the time, just a lot of the time, okay? And they'd get people absorbed into their city-states and into their kingdom or their territory, right? But if they said no, then yeah, they'd go to war, and typically the Aztecs won, and they got a lot of their prisoners of war that way and used them as sacrifices. Okay, draw a line, draw a line, draw a line. And then here we go for achievements of the Aztecs. They built a city on an island. I know to you guys, you're like, yeah, so like Hawaii's an island and Catalina's an island. And like, yeah, I got that. With today's technology, you got to understand these people were alive during like the medieval times, guys. To build a whole city on an island was a feat, okay? That was amazing. They develop a system of pictographs, okay? So they also have a type of writing system. They were not all about war all of the time. That's all they did. Yes, they were warriors, but again, they considered that a necessary evil to keep the world from imploding, right? They did enjoy things that helped balance out that warrior nature, kind of like the same as when we talked about knights or when we talked about samurai, right? It can't just be blood, 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 guts, guts, guts. That's not good for anybody. So music and poetry and dancing and sculpture was also very revered in Aztec culture. Again, that last bullet point's being kind of funky on you guys. I'm going to read it to you, okay? They showed a great understanding of astronomy, which helped create an accurate calendar system. So like the Mayans, they also understood astronomy. They understood the movements of the planets and stars and things. You guys might remember I used the word astrology with the Mayans. They did believe in astrology, giving meaning to planets, giving meaning to stars and the moods of the gods based off of those things. The Aztecs did that a little bit too, but they relied more on astronomy, actual just physical movements of everything, and not so much the mood of, you know, why things are. Like astrology would be like, I'm a Cancer because I was born in July, like that kind of stuff. Okay, so they use more astronomy, but that's a big achievement of the Mayans is warfare and human sacrifice and building a calendar system. Okay, building a calendar system. Again, here is just some of their pictograph writing. They also have a math system in order to keep, you know, track of things. In their culture, there's a genuine manuscript, like a real picture of a legit one that still exists from the 1400s. Okay, kind of get an idea of what it looked like. There's the Aztec calendar, and I know you're looking at this like, okay, it looks like a, you know, a pretty stone that's like, or, you know, like for ornamental sake. But it's hard to tell on this particular one, but some of these rings, you guys, how it's made up of a series of rings, right? Some of these rings could actually rotate, and you would rotate them around and line things up to make decisions, okay, about when to plant, when to harvest, when to go to war, when to try to do an alliance with somebody, when to do this ceremony, when to do that ceremony. So kind of similar to the Mayans in that aspect. They use the calendar for a lot of ritual reasons, a lot of religious reasons, not just, hey, it's Tuesday in June, okay? They had purpose behind their calendar. They have a lot of gold, which is what brings us back around to Cortez. Remember him? He's the conquistador from Spain that's going to stumble across the Aztec and want to take them down. They've got a lot of gold. That's going to make him want to take them down and take over this land for Spain. And so what happens is they're sailing, right? And there's a woman who's not in one of the major Aztec cities, but she's out picking berries or whatever she's doing. And she sees these ships coming at her. Now, here's what you need to understand. She's never seen ships before. So when she sees these big bellowing sails and these big wooden things with all these men that to her are way paler than the Aztecs. Spaniards, okay, to some people, well, that's not a white person. What do you mean they were pale? People from Spain are actually fairly pale. Aztecs are fairly dark in complexion. She's never seen a white person before, and she's never seen ships before, and there had been a story passed down for a long time about gods, pale, white-skinned gods, that were supposed to be coming to visit them. So she mistakes Cortez and his men for these white-skinned gods and brings them to the capital city to show the emperor the white, pale-skinned gods. So they don't even have to look for the Aztec city. They stumble across it, and this woman takes them to it, right? And ultimately what will happen is Cortez and his men will ambush the Aztecs after they have been treated like gods for a few days in the laps of luxury, okay? And some of you have maybe seen The Road to El Dorado. It's kind of based off of this story, right? And the Aztec people believe that they are gods, and so they use that time to gather intel, to figure out who the bad guys of the Aztecs are, and they go make alliances with those people, and they figure out the weaknesses and strengths of the Aztec, and they put a battle plan together, and ultimately Cortez, the head of the conquistadors from Spain, will take the head of the Aztec people, Montezuma, hostage, okay? And they go through a series of battles trying to get Montezuma back. Ultimately, they're going to lose, and Spain will take control of the area we now consider Mexico, okay? And that's how that is going to all start. Now, how do they win? This can all be part of one part of your notes if you want. They win for a lot of reasons. One, that story buys them time. They're able to get recon and do intel and figure out enemies and plan and coordinate, even though they've lost the element of surprise. The second thing is that they have far superior weapons, the Spanish do, the conquistadors, than the Aztecs. The Spanish have horses with them. The Aztecs have none. The Spanish have armor that's made out of metal materials. The Aztecs don't have that. They have animal skins and things. Okay, they have superior weapons that give them advantage in battle, like guns, like heavier, stronger steel swords and shields and things than the Aztecs do. So all of those things help, but ultimately, really, you guys, the thing that really breaks it down and why the Aztecs lose is because Cortez and his men, without realizing they're doing it, bring with them all these little germs, and the germs jump off, onto the Aztec people, and the Aztecs don't have immunity to these European germs that Europeans have grown immunity to, and so it's like brand new disease getting introduced to the Aztecs, and they get wiped out by the millions, okay? And so yeah, really, how does he win? There's a number of things that help him out for sure, as you can see on the slide, highlight. But the number one thing that's going to help him without him even doing anything and without him understanding really that he's doing it, because they don't understand germs, is that he brings all these germs with them that, the Aztecs aren't used to. Okay, so draw a line underneath everything you just wrote all the way across your page. Okay. The Incas, the last group of people we're going to talk about, another Spanish conquistador, Pizarro, will find the Incas down in South America. Okay, so again, you want to write a little bit about Pizarro. He goes and finds, exploring the west coast of South America, the Incan tribe in 1532. Okay, so make sure you get that down, make it its own little area. All right. You might want to include in that area of your notes, again, where the Incans are located, right? They're down here in South America, okay? When they're active, make sure you get that down. Push pause if you need to give yourself that little map there. And here's some stuff about their capital. This can all kind of be in one area of your notes. Their capital is Cusco. If you guys have ever seen The Emperor's New Groove, it's based on the Incan culture, and they have, Cusco as part of that culture in the movie. It's in valleys that are surrounded by mountains. They managed to create large cities and stuff up in very chilly conditions in some cases, high up in the mountains. The Inca Empire went across a big thin stretch of the western coast of South America and included present-day countries of Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, Argentina, and Chile. It was over 10 million people strong at the height of the Incan Empire. They believed that their empire was going to cover the entire earth, not understanding how many other groups of people really were on the planet and not even knowing a lot of the other continents even existed. But that's what the Incan believed, that they were destined to control the planet. Okay. All right. And that's where you want to draw your line. So go ahead and draw your line underneath all that and give yourself a left-hand side question. All right, so how does the empire get started? How does it roll into this mighty 10 million plus people empire? Well, they create alliances a lot of the time with neighboring groups like the Aztecs did. They also use warfare like the Aztecs did. The Incans don't do a lot of human sacrificing. It did happen, but not nearly as much as with the Aztecs, guys. So on occasion, yes, but it wasn't super common. They were also polytheistic. Okay, the Incan rulers were part of the noble class, like with the Aztecs, and they believed that their rulers were divine rulers, like the Mayans, right? That they descended directly from the gods. The gods had chosen them. They had special connection with the gods, god blood running through their veins, right? And they thought their rulers came from the sun god from the Inca people, Inti. I-N-T-I. I know it's getting kind of cut off there at the bottom of your slide. Okay. All right. So the class structure can be part of the same area of notes. The highest class, just like with Aztecs, is the noble class. And the noble class for the Inca included the emperor, who they believed was a direct descendant from Inti. Remember, divine rulers had special connections with the gods and had blood from the gods running through them. And the other nobles, which were government officials, helpers to the emperor, priests, and things like that, were all part of the noble class. They were the most highly respected in society, obviously, being the highest class, right? So the nobles were the most highly respected. And then below that, you had the other 85% of the population, the commoners, which were, again, the farmers and the workers and things like that. There's not slave system officially set up in Incan culture. If you study the Incans thoroughly, you will see from time to time they do have some slaves, but their definition of slaves and how those people could get out of slavery was different, and they don't have slavery throughout the entire time they exist. So if you just look at them as a snapshot and ask if they had slavery in their class structure system, the simple answer to that is not really. Okay, so no slaves in the Incan class structure. All right, draw a line, draw a line, draw a line. And here we go with family life for the Inca. Most of them don't attend school. That's true for the Mayans and the Aztec too, unless you were upper class. Male children of nobles often got tutors. Again, true for the Aztec and the Mayans as well. Typically, people stayed home until they got married. Girls got married around 16, okay? And boys got married in their early 20s to each other. They actually held a marriage market, kind of like in Mulan, if you guys have seen Mulan, where all the ladies would line up and the men would go down the line and yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, right? And pick their bride. Sometimes it was somebody you knew from your village and you've grown up with them and you knew each other, but somebody might pick you've never seen before. And if you agreed, the women did have the right, if you got chosen by a man, to say, no, but you might not get picked again. So you kind of had to think that through, right? But if you agreed, then what you would do is literally you wore sandals and you'd throw it off your foot at the other one and they'd throw it off their foot and you'd exchange sandals in your marriage ceremony, okay? Draw a line, draw a line, draw a line on family life. And here we are at religion for the Incas. Push pause if you need a second to give yourself your question and stuff. For Incan religion, guys, polytheistic, like the other ones we talked about, worshipped a lot of gods. Again, human sacrifice was rare. It happened, but it was rare. The thing that stands out about human sacrifice for the Inca is when they did it, they usually did it to kids. Very rarely did they use an adult. It was very often a child because of their innocence and their more pure blood was used than over an adult. So that's something kind of strange about them. Lots of ceremonies every year with death of animals and sacrifice and plants and foods and celebrations and festivals. Very rarely human sacrifice, but it did happen. For example, hey, it's time to harvest the corn, right? Go pick a kid that's the same height as the corn stalks, and we're going to sacrifice him for a good harvest this year. So it did happen, but it was rare. Other things about their religion, they believed that their dead rulers, who they mummified, kind of like Egyptian mummies, right? They mummified them and they kept them in their own pyramid. Each king had their own pyramid. They actually took the mummified kings that were dead out and about, and they were still part of public life and went to meetings with the current king, and they believed they could partake in these meetings and give advice to the new rulers and help make decisions about the empire, because the kings had these magical powers from the gods, being descended from the gods, even though they were in their mummified version. Okay, they never thought that the world was going to end. They always believed the world would go on forever and that they were going to rule the world, unlike the Aztecs, who thought the world might end any moment if they stopped doing human sacrifices. Okay, we're almost done. I need a few more minutes of you guys' time in part 5. Okay, but